was late April, and I was running a load of auto parts from Salt Lake City to Casper. The dispatcher had warned me about a storm rolling in, but my rig, a 2019 Freightliner with 600,000 miles and a temperamental clutch, could handle a little snow. Problem was, a jackknifed semi had closed the main route, and my GPS rerouted me onto 191, then onto a narrow cut-off locals used to bypass construction. That's how I found myself on the Devil's Spur, just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The road was a snake, winding through low hills dusted with sagebrush. No streetlights, no guardrails, just my headlights slicing through the dark. The radio crackled with static, unable to hold a signal, so I was left with the drone of the engine and my own thoughts. I'd driven worse roads, but something about this one felt wrong. The air was heavy, like the calm before a twister, and my CB stayed silent. No chatter from other truckers, which was odd for a detour route. Around mile marker 13, I saw it. A figure standing on the shoulder, thumb out. Hitchhikers aren't rare, but this guy was strange. He wore a long duster coat, hat pulled low, and stood stock still, like he wasn't cold despite the wind kicking up. I slowed, debating. Company policy says no passengers, but leaving someone out here felt cruel. As I passed, his head turned, and I swear his eyes caught the light like a coyote's. I kept going, unease crawling up my spine. 10 minutes later, my eyelids started to droop. I'd been on the road 12 hours, and the Spur's endless curves were hypnotic. I cracked window, letting the cold snap me alert, and popped a stick of gum. That's when I noticed the mile marker, 13 again. I blinked, thinking I'd misread it, but there it was, the same rusted sign, same sagebrush. My odometer hadn't budged either. I checked my watch, 11:47 p.m. I'd been driving 30 minutes, but the clock hadn't moved. My heart kicked up a notch. I'm not superstitious, but I've heard stories, truckers talking about roads that loop, places where time gets sticky. I floored it, watching the speedometer climb to 70, reckless for a road this tight. The rig groaned, but I didn't care. I just wanted off. 5 minutes later, there it was again, mile marker 13. My mouth went dry. I checked my phone, no signal, no GPS, just a blank screen. The CB was dead silent. Then I saw him again. The hitchhiker, same spot, same pose. This time he raised his head as I approached, and I caught a glimpse of his face, pale, hollow, with a grin that stretched too wide. I swerved, tires squealing, and gunned the engine. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel, muttering a prayer I hadn't said since I was a kid. The road seemed to fight me, the curves sharpening, the darkness pressing in like it was alive. I don't know how long I drove, hours maybe, though my watch still read 11:47. The hitch dash, Kerr appeared every few miles, always at marker 13, always closer to the road. Once, he was so near I thought I'd clip him, his coat flapping in my draft. I screamed at him to get lost, but he just stood there, grinning. My fuel gauge started dropping, though I'd filled up in Evanston. The rig's lights dimmed, and the engine sputtered, like something was siphoning its life. Desperate, I tried the CB again, calling into the void. This is Big Blue, anyone copy? I'm stuck on the Spur, mile 13. Somebody please. Static. Then a voice, low, raspy, not human. You shouldn't have passed me by. I ripped the headset off, heart pounding. That's when I remembered an old trucker's tale about the Spur. A drifter who'd died there decades ago, run off the road by a semi. They said he haunted the route, hitching rides, trapping drivers who refused him. I wasn't about to test the story. The next time I saw him, I slowed down. My hands trembled as I leaned over and popped the passenger door. Get in, I croaked, voice barely audible over the wind. The figure didn't move, just tilted his head, like he was studying me. Then slowly he stepped forward. The air grew colder, my breath fogging despite the heater. He reached the door, and I saw his hand, bony gray, nails like claws. I slammed the door shut and floored it, screaming, "Stay away." The road bucked under me like it was angry. The rig fishtailed, tires screeching, but I held on. Ahead, a faint glow appeared, not headlights, but dawn. The sky was lightening, the hills taking shape. I passed mile marker 14, then 15, and the road widened, merging back onto 191. My watch ticked to 11:48. The fuel gauge stabilized, the engine purred. I pulled onto the shoulder, shaking, and sat there until the sun was fully up. I made it to Casper, delivered the load, and told the dispatcher I'd never take that cutoff again. He laughed, said I was spooked by nothing. But I looked up the Spur later. Locals avoid it. They say drivers go missing there, or come out changed. One old-timer swore he'd picked up a hitchhiker on that road, only to find his cab empty at the next stop. I don't know what I saw, but I know it was real. The devil's spur didn't just keep me awake, it clawed into me, left a mark I can't shake. I stick to the interstates now, keep my CB on, and pray I never see mile marker 13 again. Some roads don't let you sleep. Some don't let you go. The first time I saw the devil's rig, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. Midnight mirages on a desert road will do that to you. US 50, Nevada's so-called loneliest road in America, isn't just empty. It's a void that swallows sound, light, and sanity if you let it. I'd been driving it for years, hauling freight from Reno to Ely and back, the hum of my Peterbilt's engine my only companion. But March 10th, 2023, changed everything. That night, I didn't just see a ghost, I raced it, and I've got the dashcam footage to prove I'm not crazy. Or maybe it proves I am. It was just shy of midnight, and I was rolling eastbound out of Austin, a speck of a town clinging to the mountains like a forgotten memory. The air was crisp, the kind of cold that seeps through your cab's seals no matter how high you crank the heat. My headlights sliced through the dark, catching jackrabbits darting across the asphalt. Then about 5 miles out, I saw it. A semi ahead, no trailer, just a lone tractor weaving like a drunkard at half my speed. Its taillights flickered red, weak as dying embers. I eased off the throttle, figuring I'd give the guy space. Some drivers get squirrely this late, but he didn't straighten out. If anything, the swaying got worse. I hit my high beams, flashing twice to signal I'd pass. No response. The truck just kept its lazy zigzag, hugging the center line. "Come on, buddy," I muttered, tapping the wheel. I dropped a gear and swung into the left lane, my rig's growl filling the silence. That's when I looked over, and froze. The cab's window was down, and in the glow of my lights, I saw the driver. Or rather, I didn't. There was a body slumped at the wheel, shoulders, arms, a faded flannel shirt, but no head. Just a jagged stump where a neck should have been, like someone had taken a chainsaw to it. My stomach lurched. I slammed the gas, my tires screaming as I shot past, heart hammering so hard I thought it'd crack my ribs. I didn't look back until I'd put a mile between us. My mirrors showed nothing but black. No lights, no truck, just the road stretching into nowhere. My dashcam's little red light blinked at me from the windshield mount, timestamp glowing, 11:58 p.m. I'd check it later, I told myself. Proof I wasn't losing it. But deep down, I already knew. That wasn't a living man I'd seen. The next morning, I rolled into Fallon, hands still shaky on the wheel. I pulled into Joe's garage, a greasy spoon and mechanic stop where I'd swapped stories with locals 100 times. Joe, a wiry guy with a beard like steel wool, was under a pickup when I walked in. "You look like hell, Sam," he said, sliding out on his creeper. I didn't argue. I told him what I'd seen, every detail, from the weaving truck to the headless shadow. His wrench clattered to the concrete. "You met old Cutter," he said, voice low. "Trucker named Ray Cutler. Died back in '74, right around there. Load of timber shifted, snapped a chain, and..." He drew a finger across his throat. "Came off clean. Highway patrol found the cab 100 yards off the road, him still strapped in. Folks say he never left. Drives that stretch when the moon's thin, looking for something. Or someone." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. Joe didn't laugh. "You're not the first," he added. "Last year, a guy came through, said he saw a rig with no driver, same spot. Swore it chased him to the county line." My skin prickled. Chased? I hadn't stuck around to find out if it would have followed me. But the idea lodged in my brain like a splinter. Back in my truck, I popped the dashcam's SD card and plugged it into my laptop. The footage was grainy, the night a smear of shadows, but there it was. The semi, swaying across the lane, my lights flashing as I pulled alongside. The timestamp read 11:58 p.m., just like I remembered. The cab window was a black hole, no face, no details, just darkness where a head should have been. I rewound it, paused, zoomed. Nothing clearer. But the truck was real. I wasn't dreaming. I called my dispatcher, Mike, that afternoon. He's a no-nonsense guy, all gruff voice and cigarette rasp, but when I played the clip over the phone, dashcam audio crackling through, he went quiet. "Sam, you sure you didn't nod off? Desert does weird shit to your head." I told him I'd been wide awake, caffeine buzzing in my veins. "Then I ain't routing you through there no more," he said finally. "Take 80 next time. I don't care if it's longer." I didn't argue. but I couldn't shake the feeling that avoiding US 50 wouldn't be enough. A week later, I was back on the road, Interstate 80 this time, safer, busier. I thought I'd left it behind. Then, at a truck stop near Lovelock, I overheard two drivers at the counter. Saw something weird on 50 last night. One said, a big guy with a beard like a bear trap. Semi with no trailer, weaving like it was lost. Passed it, but my CB went nuts, static, then a voice, all garbled. Sounded like help. The other guy laughed, but bear trap didn't. Ain't been back since. My coffee went cold in my hands. A voice? My CB had been off that night, old habit, I liked the quiet, but now I wondered. What if it had spoken? What if it wasn't just driving aimlessly? What if it wanted something from me? I couldn't let it go. Call it stubbornness or stupidity, but 2 months later, I took US 50 again. Not for work, Mike would have fired me, but for answers. I loaded my dash cam with a fresh card, strapped a GoPro to the passenger headrest, and taped a flashlight to my console. If old Cutter showed up, I'd be ready. The moon was a sliver, just like Joe said, and the clock ticked toward midnight as I hit the stretch near Austin. At 11:56 p.m., my headlights caught it. The same semi, no trailer, taillights dim and red. It was ahead, weaving slow, hypnotic. My pulse spiked, but I kept my speed steady, easing closer. This time, I flipped on the CB. Static hissed, then cleared. Nothing. I flashed my lights once, twice. The truck didn't speed up, didn't slow. It just swayed like it was waiting. I pulled alongside, slower this time, the GoPro whirring. The window was down again, and there it was, the body, no head, hands slack on the wheel. But then, oh God, then it moved. The shoulders twitched, the arms jerked, and the wheel turned. The truck veered toward me, tires screeching. I swerved hard, gravel spitting under my rig as I fought to stay on the road. The CB exploded, static, then a voice, low and broken. Where is it? I floored it, my rig roaring as I shot past. The truck didn't follow, but in my mirror, I saw it stop, dead center of the highway, lights fading to black. My hands shook so bad I nearly missed the turnoff to Fallon. When I finally stopped, I rewatched the footage. The GoPro caught it all, the twitch, the veer, the voice. Where is it? Clear as day through the CB's crackle. I showed the new clip to Joe the next day. His face went gray. He's asking for his head, he whispered. Story goes, they never found it after the crash. Timber took it clean off, and the desert kept it. I didn't want to believe him, but the voice, God, that voice, haunted me. What if it wasn't just a ghost? What if it was trapped, searching, and I'd crossed its path twice now? I quit driving US 50 after that. Moved my routes north, stuck to bright highways with traffic and noise. But I kept the footage, both clips, on a thumb drive I never watch. Last month, though, Mike called. Got a new guy, says he saw something on 50. No-headed driver, asked him, where is it on the CB? You ever figure that out? I hung up without answering. Sometimes late at night, I hear static in my dreams, a hiss, then that voice, echoing through the void. Where is it? I don't know what it wants, but I know one thing. I'm never going back to find out. The loneliest road can keep its secrets, and its ghosts. My only company was the hum of the engine and the occasional jackrabbit darting across the road. I'd been a trucker for 15 years, and nights like this were routine, until they weren't. It was just past 2 a.m. when I pulled into the Pilot Travel Center in Winnemucca, a neon oasis off exit 176. My eyes burned from staring at the road, and my thermos of coffee was long empty. The lot was mostly deserted, just a couple of other rigs parked near the fuel pumps. I stretched my legs, grabbed my wallet, and headed inside for a refill and maybe a stale donut. That's when I saw her. She was standing by the coffee station, pouring cream into a to-go cup. Blonde hair tied back in a messy ponytail, denim jacket, maybe mid-30s. Nothing unusual, except the way she looked at me. Her smile was wide, too familiar, like we'd shared a beer at a bar last week. I'd never seen her before in my life. I nodded politely, the way you do, and moved to the counter to pay. But her eyes followed me, that smile never wavering. It wasn't flirty or threatening, just wrong. Like she knew something I didn't. I brushed it off. Long hauls mess with your head sometimes. I paid for my coffee and headed back to my rig, the cold desert air biting through my flannel. As I climbed into the cab, I glanced in the side mirror. She was there, standing in the lot, still smiling, still watching. My stomach twisted. I locked the doors and pulled out, the pilot's lights fading in my rear view. I didn't think much of it until I hit the road again. The I-80 was dead quiet, not another vehicle in sight. About 20 miles east of Winnemucca, near Golconda, my CB radio crackled to life. That was odd, nobody used CB much anymore, not out here. A woman's voice came through, soft and clear. "Hey driver, you look tired. Why don't you pull over?" I froze. The voice was calm, almost sweet, but it sent a chill down my spine. I grabbed the mic. "Who's this? How do you know what I look like?" No answer. Just static. I scanned the road, half expecting to see headlights tailing me. Nothing but darkness. I turned the CB off, my heart pounding. Maybe it was a prank, some bored trucker screwing with me. But that voice, it sounded like her. The woman from the pilot. I tried to focus on the road, but my mind kept drifting back to a story I'd heard a few years ago at a diner in Elko. Another driver, an old-timer named Carl, had told it over greasy eggs and black coffee. He'd been hauling through Nevada in the 90s, same route as me, when he picked up a hitchhiker near Lovelock. A young woman, blonde, denim jacket, friendly smile. Said her name was Sarah. She seemed normal enough, chatting about the weather, the road. But when Carl glanced at her in the passenger seat, she was staring at him, smiling like she'd known him forever. He got uneasy, asked where she was headed. She just pointed at the road ahead and said, "Keep driving." Carl didn't like it, but he kept going. A few miles later, she started humming a song he didn't recognize, her voice soft but eerie. He glanced at her again, and her smile was wider, unnatural, like her face was stretching. He slammed on the brakes, told her to get out. She didn't argue, just opened the door and stepped into the desert. When Carl looked back, she was gone. No trace, no footprints. He swore he never picked up another hitchhiker after that. The other drivers at the diner laughed it off, called it a ghost story. I'd laughed too. Now I wasn't so sure. The road stayed empty, but I couldn't shake the feeling I wasn't alone. My headlights caught a mile marker. Exit 222 Battle Mountain was coming up. I decided to pull over at the Chevron there, clear my head, maybe call my wife. Anything to feel normal. As I approached the exit, my CB crackled again. The same voice. "Don't stop, driver. Keep going. I'm waiting." I yanked the CB's power cord out, my hands shaking. This wasn't a prank. Nobody could know I was planning to stop. I floored it past the exit, my rig roaring through the night. The desert stretched out endlessly, the only light coming from my high beams. I kept checking my mirrors, expecting to see her standing on the shoulder, that damn smile glowing in the dark. Nothing. Just the road. Around 3:30 a.m., I hit a stretch near Valmy, where the I-80 dips close to the Humboldt River. The air felt heavier, like a storm was brewing, though the sky was clear. My dashboard clock flickered, then went dead. The engine sputtered, just for a second, before catching again. I cursed under my breath, gripping the wheel. Then I saw it, a figure on the side of the road, barely illuminated by my lights. Blonde hair. Denim jacket. Smiling. I swerved, my tires screeching, nearly clipping the guardrail. My heart hammered as I checked the mirrors. She was gone. No way she could have vanished that fast. I told myself it was my imagination, the lack of sleep, the story messing with me. But deep down I knew better. Carl's story hadn't ended with the hitchhiker disappearing. He'd told us about the next night, when he was parked at a rest stop near Carlin. He'd woken up in his sleeper cab to the sound of humming, same eerie tune. His cab door was locked, but when he looked in the mirror, she was there, sitting in the passenger seat, smiling. He screamed, scrambled out of the cab, and ran to the rest stop's payphone to call a tow truck, claiming his rig was broken. He never drove that route again. The other drivers said Carl was half crazy, that he'd imagined it. But the fear in his eyes was real. I kept driving, my knuckles white on the wheel. The clock was still dead, stuck at 3:33 a.m. My phone had no signal, not unusual out here, but it felt deliberate. I was nearing Elko, maybe an hour away, where I could find a proper truck stop, people's safety. I just had to hold it together. Then I heard it. Humming. Soft, melodic, coming from inside the cab. My blood turned to ice. I didn't dare look at the passenger seat. I kept my eyes on the road, my breath shallow. The humming grew louder, closer, like she was leaning toward me. I could almost feel her breath on my neck. "Stop it," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The humming didn't falter. I slammed my fist on the dashboard, shouting, "Stop it!" The sound cut off abruptly, leaving only the drone of the engine. I glanced at the passenger seat. Empty. Of course it was empty. I laughed, a shaky, desperate sound, trying to convince myself I was fine. But I wasn't. When I looked back at the road, she was there, standing in the middle of the I-80, her smile stretching impossibly wide. I yanked the wheel, my rig skidding across both lanes. The world tilted, tires screaming, and for a moment, I thought I'd roll. The truck righted itself, shuddering to a stop on the shoulder. I sat there, panting, sweat dripping down my face. The road was empty again. I didn't move for a long time. I couldn't. My hands trembled as I checked every mirror, every window. Nothing. Just the desert, silent and vast. I thought about Carl, about how he'd quit the route, how he'd looked like a man who'd seen something he couldn't unsee. I understood now. I made it to Elko just before dawn, pulling into the Flying J off exit 298. The lot was busy with early morning truckers, and the normalcy of it, clinking coffee mugs, diesel fumes, bad fluorescent lights, felt like a lifeline. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Who'd believe me? I filed my logbook, grabbed a shower, and called my wife. Her voice grounded me, but I didn't mention the woman. I couldn't. I've driven the I-80 since, but never at night and never alone. I keep my CB off and my doors locked. Sometimes, when the road gets quiet, I think I hear humming, faint and distant. I tell myself it's the wind, the tires, anything but her. But I know better. She's out there, somewhere along that lonely stretch, smiling like she knows me. And I'm terrified that one day she'll be right. They say truckers see things on the road no one else does. Maybe it's the long nights, the isolation, or the endless miles that play tricks on your mind. But I know what I heard that night, and I know what my phone recorded. It was August 5th, 2019. I was hauling lumber south on I-75 near Grayling, Michigan, just another quiet run through the North Woods. The highway was empty, save for the occasional set of headlights far in the distance. The night was thick, no moon, just the glow of my rig's dashboard and the humming of the tires against asphalt. Then, at exactly 2:03 a.m., I heard it. A scream, piercing, raw, the kind that drills into your brain and freezes your blood. It wasn't a coyote, not an animal. It was a woman, and she was in pure, gut-wrenching terror. It was coming from the woods off the highway. I hit the brakes hard, my rig groaning as I pulled onto the shoulder. My first thought, an accident. Someone had veered off the road, maybe crashed into the trees. I grabbed my flashlight and jumped down from the cab. The air was heavy, humid, and dead silent aside from the occasional rustling leaves. "Hello," I called out, stepping toward the tree line. "Is someone there?" No answer. I clicked on my flashlight and swept it over the roadside, searching for tire marks, broken glass, anything. Nothing. The scream had come from somewhere deep in the woods, but now, nothing but silence. I should have turned back, but something gnawed at me. Maybe she was hurt, too weak to call again. Maybe she needed help. I pushed forward, stepping over branches, my boots crunching against the underbrush. The deeper I went, the darker it got. My flashlight barely cut through the void. Then I heard something. Not a scream. Not a voice. Breathing. Shallow. Ragged. Close. I swung my flashlight around, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. But the beam caught nothing but trees, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the breathing stopped. The silence was deafening. My gut screamed at me to turn back, but my feet wouldn't move. And that's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, hands trembling. My screen lit up with a new recording. 30 seconds long. I didn't remember starting a recording. But when I played it back, my stomach dropped. The scream. Clear as day. Terrified. Agonized. Then, a whisper. Low, breathy, almost pleading. "Help me." And then nothing. Just static before the recording cut off abruptly. I don't remember running back to my truck, but I must have. The next thing I knew, I was in the driver's seat, doors locked, hands white-knuckling the wheel. My pulse hammered against my skull as I tried to rationalize it. A trick of the wind? A prank? My own mind playing games? But no. My phone had recorded it. The next morning, parked at a rest stop outside Flint, I posted the audio clip on X, captioned it. "Heard this while driving I-75 near Grayling last night. No one was there. Can anyone explain?" It didn't take long for the replies to flood in. Most were jokes, Bigfoot, banshees, some kind of viral stunt. But then, one reply stood out among the rest. "That's where she died." I clicked on the profile. The guy had only a handful of followers, but his next message made my blood turn to ice. In 2001, a woman was hit by a truck on that stretch of I-75. Driver didn't stop. She was alive when a passerby found her, screaming for help. Cops got there too late. I stared at the screen, the words blurring. I had to know more. A quick search led me to an old news article, August 5, 2001. A woman, late 20s, had been struck and left for dead near that exact mile marker. No arrests. Case unsolved. I checked the timestamp on my recording again. August 5, 2019. 2:03 a.m. 18 years later. Same place. Same time. I haven't driven that route at night since. But I still have the recording. And every time I play it back, the air gets heavy, and I swear I can feel something watching. Listening. Waiting. Maybe she's still out there, trapped in the moment of her final scream, reaching out to anyone who will hear her. And that night I did. The question is, was I supposed to? I've spent most of my life on the road. Trucking isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Long nights, endless highways, and rest stops that feel like ghost towns. I've seen it all. Accidents that turn pavement into graveyards, strange figures standing too close to the road at night, even the occasional hitchhiker who seemed to vanish into thin air. But nothing prepared me for what happened that night outside Tulsa. I was hauling a load of auto parts from Dallas to Kansas City. It was a long drive, and I'd been pushing hard to make my deadline. The stretch of highway I was on was dark, nearly empty, the kind of road where the only company you have is the glow of your dashboard and the distant red taillights of another truck miles ahead. I was beyond exhausted. When a rest stop appeared on the side of the highway, I knew I had to pull over before I fell asleep at the wheel. It wasn't much, just a couple of picnic tables, a flickering street lamp, and a few vending machines. No other trucks, no cars. Just me and the night. But I didn't care. I just needed a few hours of shut-eye. I pulled in, set the brakes, and locked the doors. I always triple-check the locks. Ever since hearing stories of truckers being robbed, or worse, I never take chances. My doors were locked. My cab was secure. No one was getting in. Climbing into my sleeper, I settled onto the mattress and let exhaustion pull me under. The sound of the wind rattling against the truck was oddly soothing, and despite the eerie stillness of the rest stop, I felt safe. Until I woke up. At first, I wasn't sure why. The truck was still. The outside was silent. But something was wrong. I couldn't move. My limbs felt heavy, my breath caught in my throat. Sleep paralysis? Maybe. But then I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Deep. Right behind me. I tried to convince myself it was my own breath, but I wasn't breathing that deep, and this sound was too close. My body was facing the sleeper's wall, but I could feel someone behind me. The mattress had a slight dip, as if someone was lying there. Then I felt movement. The blankets shifted, ever so slightly. The breathing grew heavier. My heart hammered in my chest, my fingers twitched, desperate to move, to fight, to do anything, but my body remained frozen. And then a whisper. A voice, so close to my ear I felt the breath against my skin. You left the door open. I jerked awake with a gasp, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I scrambled upright, my hands immediately checking the door locks. Still locked. The cab was empty. The blankets were where I had left them. I was alone, but the bed beside me was still warm. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Instead, I climbed into the driver's seat and stared at the sleeper behind me, gripping the steering wheel like it was a lifeline. By dawn, I convinced myself it had been a nightmare. Just my exhausted mind playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew better. At a truck stop diner the next morning, I sat at the counter, staring into my coffee like it might have answers. An older trucker sat beside me, eyeing me curiously. "Rough night?" he asked. I hesitated before telling him. I expected him to laugh or call me crazy, but he just went pale. "Where'd you sleep?" he asked. I told him about the rest stop outside Tulsa. He let out a slow breath. "Yeah, that happens sometimes." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" The old trucker stirred his coffee. "There used to be a guy who'd rob sleeping truckers at that stop. He'd slip into their cabs while they were sleeping, take their cash, sometimes steal their rigs. But one night, he picked the wrong truck." I leaned in. "What happened?" The old man's voice dropped. "Driver woke up. Fought back. Killed him." My stomach twisted. "And?" He took a sip of coffee before answering. And they never found the body. The diner felt too quiet all of a sudden. My hands went clammy. He tapped the counter. Truckers say he still tries to crawl into cabs at night, looking for an unlocked door. Looking for someone too tired to fight back. He met my eyes. You're lucky. You locked your door. I didn't respond. I just paid my bill, got back in my truck, and put as many miles between me and that rest stop as possible. But even now, years later, I still check my locks 3 times before I sleep. And every now and then, in the dead of night, I wake up feeling like someone's in the cab with me. Listening, breathing, waiting to see if I forgot to lock my door. The engine of my Freightliner Cascadia growled as I pushed through the Connecticut night, the headlights carving a tunnel of light through the endless dark. I was on I-84, heading toward Hartford, hauling a load of auto parts from Albany. For hours into the drive, my eyelids were heavy, my thoughts sluggish. The Department of Transportation rules were drilled into every trucker's head. If you're drowsy, you pull over. No exceptions. Fatigue kills. I'd seen the stats. Crashes, rollovers, lives snuffed out because someone thought they could push through. I wasn't about to be one of them. The green glow of the dashboard clock read 1:17 a.m. My logbook was clean, but I was running up against my 11-hour driving limit. I needed a rest stop, somewhere to grab a few hours of shut-eye before rolling into Hartford. The next exit sign loomed ahead, promising a gas station or a pull-off. I flicked on the blinker, eased onto the ramp, and followed the curve. But instead of neon signs or a brightly lit Sunoco, I found myself on a narrow road hemmed in by towering pines. The pavement was cracked, barely wide enough for my rig. No streetlights, no signs of life, just trees pressing in like they were trying to swallow me whole. I squinted at a rusted green sign as I passed, Dark Entry Road. The name sent a flicker of unease through me, but I shook it off. Long-haul trucking makes you practical. Weird road names are just part of the gig. Devil's Elbow, Dead Man's Curve, Slaughter Pen Road. You laugh, you keep driving. I figured I'd find a turnaround or a clearing soon enough. A quarter-mile in, I spotted a collapsed stone wall, its moss-covered rocks spilling into the underbrush. It was as good a place as any to park. I pulled over, the rig's air brakes hissing as I set the parking brake. The engine cut off, and the world went silent. No crickets, no owls, not even the rustle of leaves in the October breeze. Just the tick of the dashboard clock, steady as a heartbeat. I leaned back in the seat, rubbing my eyes. My thermos of coffee was empty, and the cab smelled faintly of diesel and the fast food wrappers stuffed in the passenger seat. I'd been driving for 15 years, crisscrossing the country from Seattle to Miami, and I'd parked in worse places than this. A creepy road wasn't going to spook me. Then the clock stopped. The second hand froze at 1:23 a.m. I tapped the glass, thinking it was a glitch. Nothing. I grabbed my phone from the console, fully charged, always kept at 100% for emergencies. The screen was black. I pressed the power button, held it, shook it like an idiot. Dead. No signal, no flicker of life. A chill crept into the cab, sharp and sudden, like someone had opened a freezer door. My breath fogged in the air, which made no sense. The heater had been running minutes ago. I zipped up my Carhartt jacket, my heart starting to thud. That's when it hit me. Dudley Town. I'd heard the stories in truck stops, late-night conversations over greasy eggs and burnt coffee. A cursed ghost town buried in the Connecticut woods, just off Dark Entry Road. Founded in the 1700s by the Dudley family, it was abandoned after a string of tragedies, suicides, murders, people vanishing into the forest. Locals said the land was poisoned, that something evil lingered. Drivers swore they'd heard whispers or seen shadows on that road. I'd always laughed it off. Ghost stories are just road lore, like the hitchhiker who disappears from your passenger seat or the black dog that runs in front of your rig before a crash. But sitting there with my dead phone and a frozen clock, those stories didn't seem so funny. I told myself to get a grip. I was tired, that's all. Fatigue plays tricks on your mind. I'd catch a few hours of sleep, and by morning, this would just be a weird memory. I locked the doors, pulled the curtains across the windshield, and climbed into the sleeper berth. The mattress was thin, the blanket scratchy, but it was home 5 nights a week. I closed my eyes, willing my pulse to slow. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, crunching on the gravel outside. Not a deer or a coyote, those move light, skittish. These were slow, purposeful, circling the truck. My eyes snapped open. I held my breath, straining to listen. The steps paused near the driver's side door, then started again, moving toward the trailer. I sat up, my hand fumbling for the flashlight I kept in the side pocket. The beam cut through the dark, but the curtains blocked my view of the outside. I didn't dare open them. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, a sound that turned my blood to ice. A slow, high-pitched scrape, like fingernails dragging down the metal side of the cab. It wasn't a branch or a rock. It was intentional, drawn out like someone or something wanted me to hear it. My mouth went dry. I gripped the flashlight so hard my knuckles ached. The scraping moved toward the rear of the cab, then stopped. I waited, every muscle tensed, but there was nothing. Just that awful silence again. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, listening for another sound. Minutes? An hour? My mind raced. Was it kids messing with me? A drifter? But who'd be out here, in the middle of nowhere, at this hour? And why did my phone die? Why was the cab so cold? I thought about starting the engine and peeling out, but the idea of stepping outside to check the rig, or even opening the curtains, felt like a death sentence. I stayed put, clutching the flashlight like it could protect me. Eventually, exhaustion won out. I didn't sleep, not really, but I drifted into a hazy half-consciousness, jolted awake by every creak of the truck or gust of wind. When dawn finally broke, gray light seeping through the curtains, I forced myself to move. My hands shook as I parted the curtains and peered outside. The road was empty. No footprints in the gravel, no scratches on the cab. At least, none I could see from inside. The stone wall loomed in the morning mist, and the trees seemed to lean closer, their branches clawing at the sky. I turned the key, and the engine roared to life. The clock ticked again, showing 6:42 a.m. My phone powered on like nothing had happened, the screen flashing with missed notifications. I didn't wait to figure it out. I threw the truck into gear and got the hell out of there, the tires kicking up gravel as I sped back toward the highway. Dark Entry Road disappeared in my rear view, swallowed by the forest. I made it to Hartford, dropped off the load, and found a truck stop with a diner. Over a plate of pancakes I barely touched, I asked the waitress if she knew about Dudley Town. Her face tightened. "Stay away from that place," she said, her voice low. "People go in there and don't come out the same. If they come out at all." She told me about a hiker who'd vanished in the 80s, a hunter who'd come back raving about shadow people. The locals didn't talk about it much, she said, but everyone knew. Dark Entry Road was bad news. I kept driving, putting miles between me and Connecticut. I took loads through Ohio, Nebraska, Arizona, anywhere but the Northeast. But that night stayed with me. The silence, the cold, the footsteps, the scraping. I started checking my phone obsessively, afraid it'd go dead again. I stopped parking in remote places, sticking to well-lit rest stops or Walmart lots. I even bought a new dashboard clock, but I couldn't shake the feeling that time had betrayed me that night. The worst part? Sometimes late at night, when I'm alone in the cab, I hear it again. That slow, deliberate scrape, like fingernails on metal. It's faint, almost drowned out by the hum of the engine, but it's there. I've checked the rig 100 times, there's never a mark. I've told myself it's in my head, that I'm just tired, that the road plays tricks. But deep down I know better. I haven't been back to Dark Entry Road. I avoid Connecticut altogether, rerouting through New York or Massachusetts if I have to. But I can't shake the feeling that something followed me out of those woods. Something that knows my name, my route, my rig. Something that's waiting for me to pull over again, to stop on some lonely stretch of highway where the silence is too loud and the air is too cold. I'm still driving. The road is my life, always has been. But now, every shadow feels like a threat, every quiet moment a warning. I keep my eyes on the horizon, my hands on the wheel, and I pray I never hear that scraping sound again. Because if I do, I'm not sure I'll make it out a second time.